Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Read with Rhys live stream. We are on our indie summer book, Darlene, There Are Wolves in the Woods by Lydia Russell. And today I've got my own personal wolf with me.
Whoa, so ferocious.
She's terrifying. And I've got my friend Inez here with me. Do you want to give a quick summary of the book, or do you want me to start with that?
Um, do you have a summary prepared in your head?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, go for it then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the book is about a girl named Taya who her family broke apart when her sister got taken by the evil Fae Luthien when they were children. And now Taya's all grown up and she decides to go into the woods to try and find her sister. And she ends up finding a very handsome but dangerous Fae named Nathaniel who basically kind of takes her in and she starts to fall really fast for him. But it turns out that things aren't what they seem. And the big showdown at the end is centers on the Fae court and Tia trying to make deals to get her sister back.
Yeah, that's a great summary.
Yeah. So, what was your
Uh,
overall reaction to the book?
Overall, I think it was overall positive. I think a lot of the woods and the different characters are not necessarily the characters, but the like the witches and the
Uh,
nightmare. I thought that was
uh,
clever. And the different things, creatures that populated the woods felt very folklore, fairy tale, but then also felt very fresh and new and inventive. So I really liked that. I would say the thing that I didn't love was probably um I'll go into this deeper, but probably more around kind of the central characters' motivations and the kind of core plot, I guess.
mm,
I felt that there were some weaknesses there that I don't know, I guess might be more on the nitpicky side of things, but I don't know. I can go into that later, but I think the main concept of it was really interesting and I liked the writing style and the way
uh,
she explained these different things and then kind of going on the journey with Taya I thought was interesting. So overall, I would say I enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it. How about you?
First of all, hi Kelly. Thanks for joining us.
Oh,
Um,
Kelly's here.
yeah, Kelly's here. Something. So basically, my takeaway from the book was I there was a lot I loved about the book. I thought the writing was amazing. I loved the vibes of it. I loved the fantasy and the dark mysterious woods stuff, but I couldn't buy it as a fantasy, but that's on me because I mean, not as a fantasy, as a romance, because I don't really like those kind of gothic romances. Like she does it so well. Like it's very clearly meant to be like a very like complicated like relationship and very gothic. But I don't really personally like those kind of romances. I just don't like ship it, you know? So if I like looked at the book as kind of not just being a romance but like the other elements of it, the fantasy elements of it, and the gothic vibes, I think that it was really enjoyable. I just couldn't read it and be like, oh, this is such a cute romance, you know, like that's not what you get when you read the book, and you're not really supposed to, but
I mean, the romance, I think, for me, had a lot of, brought back a lot of memories of the type of romance that I know Twilight was not the first book to do this, nor was it the last, but it's where the male character is very old
uh-huh.
and I wasn't
And
clear to
kind of
me if
creepy.
yeah, exactly, kind of creepy, not a lot going on in terms of personality, and
uh,
then the female character, on the other hand, is kind of naive, just the girl next
uh-huh.
door type of character, and then it's just insta love, they're just
Yeah.
instantly so attracted that she instantly the first person she meets in the forest is what's his name? Nathaniel?
Yeah,
Nathaniel? Nathaniel?
Nathaniel. I did
Nathaniel?
really love, the names in the book. Nathaniel, Luthien, Taya, just very, like, creative names.
Yeah, I liked Taya, and I liked the other ones. I wasn't so sure about Nathaniel just because it doesn't I don't know, for me it gets like stuck on the tongue.
Uh,
But otherwise I liked the different side characters' names. Um and yeah, so I think I don't know, there was just that instant love where he was
mm,
instantly, "Oh, I need to have you forever."
uh,
And it to me just that type of romance never makes sense because
uh,
I just don't see what's in it for him because she's going to get old and die, and it's something he's seen a lot before. So, I don't know, I just feel as you get older when you kind of see the same thing over and over again. Like,
uh,
I don't know, I would never date a teenager because I know I was a teenager. I
yeah.
understand, I'm not judging it, but like the place that they're at in the world and the place I'm at in the world are just so different
Uh-huh.
that I just could never really have an emotional romantic connection with a teenager, and it always feels like that when someone, like, timeless falls in love with an ordinary teenage girl, it's like or she's not teenage, I think she's 21 or something,
Uh-huh.
but still 21 is not
Still a baby, basically,
yeah,
in
I
a lot of
wouldn't date a
ways.
21-year-old.
Yeah.
I would be like, "Call me when you get some maturity because I'm not dating you not dating a 21-year-old." So, I just for me, it doesn't really click, and obviously it's from Taya's point of view, so you don't really see what he's thinking.
I
Yeah,
I
so it
think
just
how
feels
I
weird.
read that was I think to him, she's almost kinda like an ice cream cone, you know? Like, it's only going to last a certain amount of time, and so that makes it, like, even more good when you're, like, eating the ice cream cone 'cause, you're just trying to, like, enjoy it as much as you can while you still have it. Um
Yeah, it's true, and I can also see that maybe he was with, the other lady, the
Luthien?
evil one,
Yeah.
who's very powerful and very
Uh-huh.
old, so he's kinda wants something different that's innocent and young and
Uh,
whatever. But I don't know, it just for me, it doesn't feel romantic, it feels
uh-huh.
creepy, it feels
Yeah.
predatory, like
Well, and I also was really squicked out about the whole, like, Lily thing. He has this, little, like, side creature that, like, follows him around and is obsessed with him, and, like, they say in the book that they've had, like, you know, intercourse and stuff, and that just really squicked me out.
I know, because I thought when it was first described, I thought it was like a little
Yeah.
gnome creature or something, like a dog or, like kind of more sentient dog or something. And so I was like, okay, that's weird, but kind of creative world building or whatever. And then when it did say, oh, we're lovers, I was like,
Yeah.
nope,
Yeah.
that's a nope. But yeah, so some things like that just felt a bit off. And I
Uh-huh.
don't know. For me, I guess it's not really my style of romance. I don't really find
Uh-huh.
that very compelling.
I
Um,
I kind of
so
I
it's hard
think
to
my
say.
takeaway is it's kind of like, like, Jane Eyre or Wuthering Heights, where you've got, like, this couple that, like, they're clearly bad for each other, but, like, the book is, like, focused on their romance, but then add in, like, all this other, like, fantasy stuff. That's kind of how I read it, and so I kind of like I said, I kinda had to divorce myself from, like, seeing it as, like, a straight romance.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
that's
once
what
I
I
did that,
found.
I really enjoyed the book.
Yeah, I enjoyed the other parts of it, I think, a lot more. And the other thing I didn't really like is that I think I was trying to keep count, but I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 times where Taya just runs into the woods, nothing, no thoughts, no items,
Just
no
vibes.
shoes or clothes or anything, she just runs into the woods, and then Nathaniel chases after her
Uh,
and saves her, and I think it was at least 3 that I can think of because the
uh,
first time when, to be fair, she was at her dad's funeral, she was pretty drunk,
mm,
she runs into the woods, on a whim,
mm,
and then she meets Nathaniel, and then the second time was at the house when after she finds out she's been enchanted, then she runs into the
Uh-huh.
woods, and then the third time was at the palace or the castle with the sorceress lady, and then
Uh-huh.
she just runs into the woods, and it's like, just how many times can we do this? You know, have the same thing happen, and it's
Uh,
just like, I don't know. So it was like at least those 3 times, maybe more, and then that the same thing happened, and then it's always Nathaniel there to, like, save her, and it's like, well, if he didn't save you, what would have happened? Like, it just, I don't
uh,
know, it felt to me like the writer knew that she wanted Nathaniel to come in and save her, so
uh,
she's just like, "I'm not gonna make this logical or, like, try to put some, collecting some stuff or changing her shoes or changing her dress.
uh,
Nah, she's just gonna run because I know Nathaniel's gonna come and save her." So it just kind of felt you could really kinda, like, you didn't believe the character's motivation because you could see the author's
uh-huh.
intent while she was writing it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also though feel like I think Taya is in such a bad state of mind. And that was something that like kind of followed me through this whole thing. Like she's clearly not a mentally well human being at this point. She's gone through so much trauma. Um she's kind of like a husk of herself really. And that's another reason why I couldn't really buy the romance because I don't think Taya's in any position mentally to be like finding somebody and have it be like a healthy thing for her because she's still
Yeah.
trying to like find herself and accept herself. Um but I think she's just not all there at the moment, which, I can kind of relate to at points, where, you just have so much to like process that you kind of
You
aren't
just
thinking
run
about those
out into the
things.
woods
Yeah.
with no
You're just like
plan.
trying to like, escape and like your mental like, feelings and stuff, which I think is
Yeah.
I can see both, I see both sides of that.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, I just felt like if it
Yeah.
was going to be more that she's just so unbalanced and, which is fair if that's the direction you wanna go with that character. She's just so unbalanced that you want to, um, have her run out
Mhm.
more chaotically, but I don't know, I just really, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was quite enough for me to really
Mhm.
buy that she was just unhinged. Because in other ways, she was, clear thinking quite clearly and quite rationally.
Mhm.
So, maybe if, there had been more just, yeah, something more in the internal
Uh,
processing where she was like, "I just need to get away, and
uh,
things aren't happening clear, and I don't care if I die." And then that was the direction it went in. Or if it was more logical that she actually thought that she was going to end up where she wanted to go and,
mhm.
packed some things and then left. Like, I feel I had to go what that direction or this direction. I had to
Yeah.
go one or the other, and I felt we were just kind of in the middle where she was rational enough that I felt she could have made preparations.
Uh,
But then there was also this, like, clear emotional trauma, which is fair, but it wasn't kind of brought out enough to make sense. I don't know, so I just
uh,
kinda those scenes I just kind of was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling here. I don't really feel
yeah.
bad for you, but I
Uh,
also don't understand why you're doing this.
uh,
Yeah, so I don't know, some things like that I just felt in the middle of, and, um, yeah, so and I don't know, it just felt a bit, like, wishy-washy, I guess, on
uh,
her, like, motivation, so,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
It's something that I wanted to talk about is the cover of the book because I think it's so fabulous. I love the borders, the colorization, the font and the way that like the little light sparkles over the O and the figure of the woman in that like gorgeous dress and stuff. I just think it fits the vibe so well of the book.
Yeah, and I liked the title, I thought was really interesting, and I think the title to the second book, which now I can't remember, but the title to the second book also was something that stood out to me as
Uh,
interesting, and I think the cover I only saw it on my grainy
uh, Yeah.
Kindle device, but the cover also looked nice for the
Uh-huh.
sequel, and I did like that it all seems to have the same
Mhm.
vibe, the
Yeah.
same kind of dark fairy tale vibe, and yeah, there's just a nice yeah, I thought she did a good job with the world building and,
Yeah.
um, making it familiar, but
Mhm.
also creative and adding that new twist. So I will give her definite props for that.
And I like that you bring up the title because I do think the title is really special. I think that it plays thematically in the book in different ways, and I love that it's a long title. It's not like a blank of blank and blank
I know,
or
I was gonna say
two or
that
three
too,
words, and so I just feel like it's really creative. And there's a point in the book where it kind of name drops the title, and I really like the quote. There were so many quotes that I ended up writing down in my notes for this stream because there's just some like quotes and things in the books that are just written so well that I really loved how the author worded them. It says, "These woods are filled with wolves, all too eager to devour you whole. The trouble is, many stand upon two legs and look too much as if they are helping." I thought that was very like in tune with the book.
yeah.
Um, and I thought there was a lot of other like little spots where kind of the theme of the book becomes really clear, but not like in too like overt of a way. In the beginning of the book, um Taya's mom is telling her about like love and stuff, and she says, "Love is painful, and when it is at its very best, it's excruciating. You are not really in love until your heart aches and your body wishes it to stop, but your very soul refuses to let it go." And kind of my take on that quote is I don't really take it at face value. Like, I don't believe that that is the, official, like, rubber stamp definition of love. But I do think that it's how Taya kind of comes to see it with Nathaniel. And I also think that her mom, I don't put too much weight in what her mom says because her mom clearly had, her own problems in her own relationship and things. So I think that all of that kind of affects how Taya sees love, and I don't think she has like a very like healthy like perspective on human relationships and obviously then relationships with Faye.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, agreed. I think that she doesn't have a very well, the thing is, I think it's not a very healthy relationship, and I think that as the reader, you can see she's kind of in a bad place, and this
Uh-huh.
is kind of a weird relationship. But I felt like the book was really going out of its way to make it seem like this perfect idyllic
Uh-huh.
romance. It felt to me a lot like
Mhm.
reading Twilight
Uh-huh.
and the romance between Edward and Bella, where it's meant to be in the book, in the text, it's very clear that this is the perfect relationship. But then me as a reader had this
Yeah.
sense of discomfort of like, this
Uh-huh.
is weird to me. I don't really see this as romantic.
Yeah,
It's
same.
it's not clicking for me. And I felt that I really felt that same kind of discomfort with this
Uh-huh.
book because I feel it's kind of one thing if you have a bad relationship or you have a toxic relationship and then you kind of unpack that and you
Mhm.
show the different sides to it and you're aware that there's this dark side and maybe there's good things and bad things and you can see
Mhm.
why characters continue in that and have that nuance. I
Mhm.
like that. That's good. But I felt in this book, I felt
Uh-huh.
the text itself was very much like this is a dream romance, and then
Uh-huh.
there was, like, one part where he had enchanted her or used the glamour to get her to
Mhm.
stay, and then she was mad about that. She
Mhm.
runs off. "Oh, so dramatic." And then after that, I felt that it was mentioned, but it wasn't a problem. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
like something that they had to work past or she had to work to forgive him or anything.
Uh-huh.
It just felt like, "Oh, yeah, that happened, but don't think about that because this romance is amazing and you should be rooting for this couple." And that's what made me feel a bit weird is that like
Uh-huh.
lack of awareness that this was
Uh-huh.
not a very good relationship. and
Uh,
it had that vibe of the Twilight Edward Bella romance. I'm sure there's other examples, but that one's just really well known, so that's why I'm using it, but it
yeah,
really had that vibe to me, and
I
I
had
was
that
like,
same takeaway.
"Mhm,
And another quote that I wrote down that I really liked, that kind of touches on all that is, "You are so desperate to be wanted by anyone that you gave yourself up at the first opportune moment." And I think that like, is so telling for how unhealthy the relationship is and how like Taya is just so desperate to find anything to cling on to because her mom and her dad were like so devastated after her sister disappeared and
yeah,
she kind of felt like invisible, and so he's really the first person in her life who's given her that kind of attention. And so I think it's more of that, but it is really like romanticized, but I think that that's kind of the core of why she's so like desperate to like ignore all the things he's doing wrong.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I can see that. I just feel that we're seeing that, but I feel like the author would be very annoyed with us and be like, "Why don't you see this beautiful romance?" Kinda like the author of Twilight,
Uh,
you know? "It's not toxic, it's beautiful." I'm sure that that's like I don't know, I'm not sure, but I feel pretty confident that that was the read that the author was trying to
yeah.
convey.
Um, how did you feel about the ending?
So I mean, the ending definitely ended on that kind of cliffhanger,
Uh-huh.
and so I read in the Kindle version, there was the sample chapter,
I didn't read the
and then
sample
I skipped.
chapter. Did you?
You you did or you didn't read
I
it?
didn't.
Oh, I read it just because I was curious, and I'm glad I did because my suggestion for the sequel was going to be that they should go back to the real world
Uh-huh.
and, yeah, like, just hang out there. I don't know, like, Nathaniel goes to Tesco with
Uh,
get some fish and chips, I don't know. So I was kind of um, "Oh, I think that would be a fun thing to do," and it doesn't I don't know about the sequel, I don't know if it does or not, but it definitely hinted at that,
mhm.
in that sample chapter, so I was kind of looking forward to that happening.
Yeah, I mean, for all that I sit here and say that, like, I didn't really buy the romance, like, by the end of the book with that cliffhanger, like, I wanna know what happens, and if they
Yeah.
go into the real world, I think that'd be so funny, I love that idea. I think that
Yeah,
that
I
would just be
really
so
so when I
cute.
saw that, I was like, this was going to be my suggestion," and it seems like they're headed that way, I don't know because it was only the first chapter.
One of my favorite things in the book was the mention about Furbies, she's explaining Furbies to him, I died when I read that.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking as well, like, while I was reading, I was like, "Yeah, what do they talk about?" Because they grew up in such different
Uh,
worlds, and then, they're spending all this time together, and it was like, "Yeah, what do they talk about?"
I feel like,
Um, so for that, it
uh
was good.
and this is gonna be like a really weird thing to say, but I kind of feel like Furbies are like the inverse of Fae. Like they look cute, but they're really creepy. Whereas as Nathaniel's like he looks like creepy because he's a Fae, but like he has some cute moments with her.
Yeah.
Because Furbies, I mean, they're so creepy sometimes, even though
I
they look
know,
like just like little like fluffy things.
I know, and they were, like, watching you.
And
Who
sometimes they'll
knows
like
what their
talk
little
without doing
robot
anything. Yeah.
brains are plotting.
Uh,
Yeah, so I mean, I'm definitely interested, but I just think, well, I'm not sure, but I also kind of feel like the relationship is very, it's very
uh,
solid or it's like set in stone that these two
uh,
characters are going to end up. So I
yeah,
feel that even though there's the action, being chased and things like that, I feel that from the romance side, I'm not sure where the romance is
uh,
going to go because I just don't think that I would believe any other I would
mhm,
believe a real breakup or that something would drive them apart or, something like that. I feel that the book has decided that they are together and that that's the perfect
uh,
romance, and then that's just gonna be how it is. So I don't
yeah,
know, I would be interested to to keep reading for all the things we talked about, the world building and the yeah, just seeing a
uh,
fae in the modern world, I think would be
uh,
interesting. And and then also seeing what happens with um the queen chasing after them, and now that Taya is the queen, the
uh,
Seelie queen, I think it would be there's like all these interesting pieces, but I'm just not sure how compelled I am by the romance itself.
yeah. I think my thing is and it may be naive of me, but I kind of hope that we do get more development in the relationship to where like it makes more sense that they're together still, you know? Like I think there's still room for like character growth there. I just don't know if that's going to happen.
I think what we're going to get, just my prediction, this is just my
Yeah.
prediction, I don't know, but my prediction is that we are going to get backstory on
Uh,
Nathaniel, and we'll know why he's so dark and
uh,
tortured, and that's, you know, that's going to be the reason why he's not a very nice guy.
uh,
In some, you know, in some cases he is fine, you know, but then
uh,
in other times, obviously, he's not very nice. So I think it will be a tragic backstory,
mm,
and that will explain,
mm,
that will justify his bad behavior. And then Taya will be like, "Oh, I'm here to support you," and then that will
uh,
be that. I That's what my money's on.
uh. Um, I I really do love like we've talked about the world building. I liked the way that like the settings were described and the getting to see like the witch village like especially that scene. I think that like it just plays on so many different dynamics that are happening at that point in the book where um the power dynamics between her and Nathaniel and the power dynamics between her and the world and her kind of getting sucked into it like she's eating like the candies and stuff and she's kind of enjoying herself and then it just keeps escalating into something like really like bad and the way that the scene builds I think is really like well done.
Oh, I did like everything up until in that scene up until the end. I'm assuming
Mhm.
if anyone's watching, they've read the book, so I'm not worried about spoilers. But if you haven't read the book, then spoilers. But and she just gets stabbed randomly. I was like,
uh,
you know, I could see all the things kind of. I agree. I liked the mark. I thought that was interesting. I also thought it was cool that we started there, and she kind of when she was weak
uh,
and sick and everything, so we saw some of it, so we kinda had a knowledge of what to expect, and then when she came back, she was in a better place, you know, she's with,
uh,
uh, Nathaniel and everything, you know, and it was just a
uh,
different vibe, but we got to explore it more, which was nice, but then just randomly getting stabbed, and I felt like a lot of things in the book were kind of random that
uh,
it was like, "Oh, we need something to happen." So it's just like, oh, you get stabbed by a witch for like not a clear reason.
uh,
And I don't know if I were playing like editor, I would have said, you know, that maybe, you know, she has to do something, get some sort of item or knowledge to help her on her quest to save her
uh,
sister. And when she does that, then you know, she has to do something risky and then she ends up getting hurt or stabbed or whatever
uh,
because she's trying to achieve this goal,
uh,
not just walking down and then, you
yeah.
know, I forget what happened. She was just walking down the street and then for some reason the
I
witch
think
like
they just
grabbed her
all
and
wanted a
stabbed
piece
her.
of her.
Yeah, so it was, and I forget, like, yeah, it was just very random. And I
Mm,
don't know, I just kind of, I felt it would have been a lot more powerful if it had
uh,
been tied to, you know, they were in the market looking for something to help them save her sister, and they're looking around and the witch has it and they have to outsmart the witch, or they have
uh,
to sneak in and get it, and then she gets injured by doing that action rather than this kind of more passive
uh,
way that she just randomly gets stabbed. I don't know, it's just so
yeah.
there are a few other cases like that where I just
Mhm.
felt that there was something that happened, but it wasn't really linked to the
Mhm.
plot itself, that overall plot or her
Uh,
motivations or something like that, and I just felt there was, like, not that there was anything wrong with it, but there was just, like, a missed
uh,
opportunity there that you're
yeah.
like, "Oh, it could've been so
I
much more cool."
uh I get what you're saying, and I agree, but I think the issue is the book, in my opinion, isn't really about her saving her sister, because she spends so much of the book like, "Oh, I need to because it would, fulfill me, whatever," and then she jumps to like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't," and then, "Oh," she's, like, debating with herself. I think the plot is very, very internally, it deals much more with, like, her personal, like, internal self instead of anything that's happening externally. Like, she just kind of floating through the world and kind of moving along, and I think that it's kind of hard to shoehorn in those more external moments without kind of changing the story to be more external, which,
Yeah.
could be
I
done, but
Yeah. Well, my theory, and this is just from writing and reading a lot
yeah.
of unpublished works, is that my theory is that she had this is that the original story was Taya goes into the woods, she meets Nathaniel, they have drama and stuff,
Uh,
and they fall in love, and and then, kind of explore the world. And that was the
uh,
original story. And then someone told her, "Hey, there's no plot here." And then so she built in the plot about the sister
uh,
getting kidnapped because and the reason why I think this is pure conjecture, but also because I think you can see the points that the sister is mentioned, and they're very much points. They're
mm,
dropped in. It's not like this constant thing that's, like, really motivating her.
mm,
Like, I think you could take that out and still have it wouldn't be as interesting of a story, but it would still be
mhm.
a story, and so I that's my theory, but that's just based on
Yeah.
reading a lot of people's writing, like,
Mhm,
pre-publication writing, so I think that's my theory, is that the sister was
mm,
actually added on after to give her kind of a reason to move through the story, and that it's not very deeply connected to the story itself. You could easily
mm,
take it out and you could swap it with something else, or you could just take it out and the
mm,
story would still read. Whereas a lot of other stories, when you have the key plot, if you took out that key plot, there would be nothing. There would just
yeah.
be like random scenes. There would be nothing left really.
Uh-huh,
So that's why I kind of feel that the sister part was maybe an add-on, or maybe it was a small part at the beginning and then it became much bigger to kind of fill this void because yeah, it was very her motivation was very inconsistent,
mhm,
which is fine, but it just felt like it was kind of an afterthought on the real story, which was supposed to be this romance, or fairy
mhm.
tale romance thing.
Um, Another thing that I wanted to kind of touch on was the foils. I feel like there's a lot of foils in the book, like Niven and Taya, where, um I like kind of that Taya, like, at the start is like, losing Niven kind of like ruined my family, like, it's my fault, why was it, her and not me, and like things should have been different. But then we find out later that Niven is kind of cold and uncaring, and that kind of, I think, weighed on Taya when she was, around in the family. And so I think that contrast between them was really interesting, and it did make me see Taya in a different light, where I could kind of sympathize with her even more, because she went from having like this awful sister to like feeling guilty for losing her sister.
Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting choice as well. I thought that was interesting to have Niven not be this perfect angel who is
Mhm,
stolen, but have a bit more mixed feelings and
mhm,
things as well. So I thought that was an interesting choice.
mhm. And I feel like Luthien and Taya are kind of contrasted, and you can also kind of contrast Luthien and Nathaniel, and just kind of their motivations and characteristics, where like Luthien is this very like fabulous, confident, very like sexual woman, whereas Taya is still very like innocent and figuring out herself, very confident. And I think she partly is repulsed by Luthien and her like just and all the evil things that she's done, but I think she also kind of wants to be like Luthien deep down. And I think she has that kind of envy for her. And um I think that's maybe part, jealousy with Nathaniel, but I think it goes deeper than that.
Yeah, I think that will be interesting to follow that into the sequel, or I think there might be a third one as well, I'm not sure. Um, because yeah, that could be something interesting that could grow. Maybe she gets more confident and then she has to choose if she wants to
Mhm.
be more like that or if she wants to be more like who she was before. Gives her a little bit more room to grow. Could be really
Mhm.
interesting.
Um, and I did think it was interesting the like political dynamics between Nathaniel having sided with Luthien back during like the big like conflict that happened, and then like slowly realizing that that's not what he wanted and kind of going off and being on his own. Like I thought that was kind of some interesting backstory. I think, well, I don't like Nathaniel. I think that that like added some good dynamic to him.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
um is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I definitely had a lot of thoughts while I was reading it, and I mean, part of it is just yeah, just writing myself and then reading other people's
Uh,
unpublished work. I can't just read and enjoy anything. I'm
mm,
always like, "Oh, you could do this or you could do that," or, like, trying to, play not script doctors for, like, a film, but for a book doctor
uh,
where
like beta
you're
reading,
yeah,
you're
beta
in that
reading.
kind of mindset, yeah.
Yeah, I still have the beta reading mindset when I'm reading it, so there's a lot of things that I was like not a lot, but there were a few things where I was just like, "Had there's this could be done differently,"
Uh,
and I mean, most of it kind of related to creating a more sensible, like, external plot
mhm,
points, because it just yeah, it felt a bit, um it felt like that was definitely not the focus,
mm,
which is fine, but I don't know, for me, I was like, "It's so close, you could
mm,
get a little bit more where she's trying to figure out a way to save her sister
and being
rather
more
than"
proactive than reactive.
yeah, rather than, like, when she goes to the castle and she just or palace or whatever it is,
Mm,
and she just doesn't really know what she's going to do or say, and then she gets there, and then the is she a sorceress? I've been saying sorceress, but I don't think she's a sorceress.
she
Um,
yeah, I don't think that's technically what she is, but she gives off those
no.
vibes, like, she uses her, like, magic a lot.
Yeah, the yeah, so and Taya faces off with her and instead of having
A
some sort of
plan, yeah.
plan or something or, um, she's just kind of like, "Oh, I wanna give you part of my life," and then the lady's like, "Oh, no, I don't accept that. Your only choice is to swap places with your sister." And then Taya's like, "Okay, well, that's the only choice." So,
Mhm.
there's like, how did you not this is kind of what Nathaniel has been saying the whole time. Like, I don't know, I think I would've liked to see a little bit more of that proactiveness throughout the
Yeah.
plot and a little bit more of that kind of I don't know, I guess, like I don't know, I understand she has the mixed feelings about her sister, but I don't know, I think it's also okay to have a character that's kind of delusional that she imagines okay, if I were a book doctor, what I would do is I would have at the beginning, I would have her mom make it very clear, like, everything will be alright if only Niven comes back. If she doesn't come back, then maybe I'll follow your father into the grave. And Taya's like, oh my gosh, my mom, the only way to save my
Mhm.
mom from herself is to bring back my sister.
Mm.
And so I'm gonna
More
go.
urgency.
Yeah, that urgency. And so she's like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go do it. Like, I had a bunch of drinks at the pub and now I'm just gonna
Mm.
go.
Mm.
And then that's when she kind of gets into the mess of everything happening. And then she has this kind of, and then when she gets to Nathaniel's house, she maybe like packs her bag and she I don't know, she bargains with him and
Mm.
is like, this is, if I can get the information that I need, I'll stay around for an extra few days or something.
Mm.
And then he kind of tricks her, but she has like her pack already to
Mm.
go. And then
Mm.
he tricks her and glamours her, and she's ready to go. She's got one foot out the door, but he's glamoring her, so her pack kind of sits there. And then she, "Oh, maybe I'll wait a bit longer. I'll wait a bit longer." And her pack is slowly collecting dust. And then finally,
Mm.
she kind of has that revelation where she realizes the seasons have changed and that she's missing out on her chance to save her family.
Mm.
And then she grabs her pack and then she goes. And
I
then
love
at least you
that.
have this kind of like, you feel that that's what she was originally gonna do, and she was really gonna do it, and
Uh,
Nathaniel was actually stopping her from
uh,
doing the thing that she wanted.
uh,
And then yeah, and then, and she can still have these mixed feelings about her
mhm,
sister and be like, "Oh, maybe I'll be replaced or whatever," but, I can't just let my mom fall apart. I can't just let my whole life fall apart. I need to go get her. I don't know. And
mm.
then like she's proactively trying to save her sister, but can also have those mixed
Has a real
feelings.
reason to do it other than just feeling guilty.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of like she can have those mixed feelings as well, but then she also has this reason and it's like really something she's trying to do and Nathaniel stops her from doing it. And
Mm.
then later in the book he has a change of heart and helps her do
Mm.
it. So you see that kind of like um I don't know, so you get more of that kind of
Uh,
feeling of that she's more moving the plot along, and that also Nathaniel at first is a barrier and then later
uh,
becomes an ally. So I don't know, I just think that there's, like, little things
yeah.
like that where you
Well, and I
think
also
most
kind
things
of
the same, just tweaks.
got frustrated how, like, she would, like, get upset with Nathaniel, but then she wouldn't stay upset with him. Like,
Yes,
that's kind
yeah,
of maybe realistic in, like, an abusive relationship and stuff, but, like, it
yes.
still was, like, annoying because I just wanted them to, like, have a real, like, hash it out moment where they, like where he understood genuinely, like, how much he'd been doing wrong and, like, you know, but they
Yeah,
never really talked about it.
yeah, exactly, that's how I felt too, with the glamour thing, she was mad for 5 seconds
Mm,
probably, and then it was kind of just they didn't talk about it or they didn't. Yeah, I didn't feel like I
mm,
felt that would be my book doctor
mm,
advice as well would be, he does something wrong, he does the glamour wrong, and then maybe as kind of to show her that he's really sorry,
mm,
he helps her find Niven and he gives up something that's important to
uh.
him, or I guess
Yeah,
that's
he
kind of
made a
what
real
happened, but,
sacri
like,
yeah, yeah.
but
Um,
it's like it felt like he didn't really
yeah,
understand what he'd done wrong
uh-huh.
with the glamour. It felt like he was like, "No, I made the
"I
right
was
choice,
trying to
but you're
protect
so
you,
stubborn, I'm
yada,
gonna
yada,
help you
yada." Yeah,
anyways."
yeah.
Yeah, like, "I can't stop you from doing this, so I guess I'll go along with you."
Um,
And yeah, so it just felt a bit,
uh-huh. Something
I
that
don't
just
know.
popped in my head was, I think it was Halsey that said this. I think it was a tweet or something, where they were saying how, someone told them that sometimes in a relationship you confuse butterflies. Like if you feel butterflies, it's really like you not feeling safe in the relationship and like
Mm,
feeling really uneasy. And I think that's kind of what Taya's doing, where she doesn't feel like super like safe with him deep down and he's constantly making her feel uneasy and she's just not comfortable with that. And
yeah.
and deep down and she's because she's feeling those like butterflies in her tummy about not feeling comfortable. I think she confuses that for like, oh, I'm in love with him,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this must be why I feel so like worked up.
yeah, exactly, and I think that's very true. I think that's a good point, and I think, um, yeah, I don't know. I think that there are a lot of parallels that you've mentioned, and I can see as well to abusive relationships. But I just feel like the book doesn't have a lot of self-awareness
Self-awareness.
of it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's why my prediction is the
Yeah.
next book will be, "Oh, he's damaged, he has a tragic
Uh-huh.
backstory, and that's why he's not a very nice guy." And that's
Uh-huh.
what we're gonna get, and I just feel I don't know, I just feel that it's not I don't wanna be the
Uh-huh.
everything in a story needs to be a healthy, balanced
Uh-huh.
relationship, or you can't have it public. I don't think that's the right
Uh-huh.
approach either, but I think just, like, having that awareness of what this person did was not okay, and having a
Uh-huh.
tragic backstory, or having being hot and being sad is not
Uh-huh.
gonna justify or cancel out what you've done.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I just kind of feel, yeah, that the romance could work if you
Mm.
had a little bit more from him that doesn't just make it seem like a toxic relationship. I don't know, there's something that just feels very toxic about the
Yeah.
relationship, and it does feel a bit, that there's just too many parallels to abusive relationships
Yeah.
that just makes it feel not very romantic, it just makes it feel like a
Yeah.
little bit, like, removed
Uh-huh.
from it.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
why, like I said before, I like reading it more as, like, a dark fantasy book. I think that it works really well as, like, dark fantasy.
Yeah. I think yeah, exactly, and I think I can the romance is fine. It's something to think about definitely where I'm like, "Is that an okay thing or something?" I don't know,
Yeah,
but I guess
yeah.
I was definitely more interested, I think, or more swept away by the
Uh-huh.
world and the strange creatures and
If I
the
could
imagery and things
Yeah.
like that.
If I could give the book an award, it would be for most consistent vibes. Like, I feel like if the book was a movie, like, every scene would be the same Instagram filter.
Yeah, and I can really picture how it would look, and it also just feels very exciting that there's so
Uh-huh.
many different things that you always are, like, finding something new and, unexpected and unpredictable, so I kind of like that as well, and I will say in the first chapter of the sequel, there was already a cool, kind of fairy tale
Uh-huh.
thing, and it was just, in the first chapter, I was like, "Oh, this is really cool, like, this is so creepy. How did she think of this? Is this an
Uh,
existing story?" Or, I was already like, "Oh, this is really
uh,
cool." And that was just in the
uh,
first chapter.
yeah, Lydia is, on Twitter. You should go follow her, she's great. And she talks about how her book, the series was heavily inspired by growing up in the woods a lot as a kid. And I do just feel that intense, like, love for nature and the mystery that's in the woods and stuff. It feels very playful and
Mhm.
mysterious. And I think that's really cool that that was what the inspiration was.
Yeah, that definitely I flicked to the end, I think the acknowledgments or afternoon or whatever. Um, I'm always curious to see what authors say,
Uh,
what thank yous I have or what. So, yeah, and I saw that she had grown up next to the woods and that inspired her, and I thought that yeah, I think that's just it's cool, and you can really see in the writing the love for the woods and, yeah, this kinda dark mystery and everything like that. So, I actually was thinking, I was like, I definitely have some criticisms, or I don't know, not
uh,
necessarily. I don't know, I guess criticisms or things that I would like to see or things like that, but I definitely wanted to kinda have a compliment sandwich of all the
uh,
good things that I liked and all the bad things,
uh,
and then the good things again, because I
uh,
think the good really outweighed the bad,
mhm,
and the writing style was really good, so I don't yeah, I think it's always easy to focus a lot on the negatives, especially for me. I'm always like, "I would do like this, I wanna change this, or I wanna, like, complain about this," but, I think overall the book was really it was good. I don't know, I
uh,
couldn't put it down, like, I was definitely reading it, quickly, and I don't know, I may dive into the sequel on this one.
yeah. I think I'm
If
gonna
for
read
no
this
other
sequel.
reason than
Yeah.
to see Nathaniel at Tesco.
With a Furby.
Strolling down.
Ay. But yeah, the writing is really, like, fabulous. The way that, like, things the way the words are strung together is very poetic, very, like,
Yeah,
visual
definitely.
and, yeah, I just, fell right into that. It's just so easy to read, and it feels magical when you're reading it because of the way that things are worded.
Yeah, you can definitely feel it creates these mental images that are
Mhm.
really that you feel immersed in. So I think that's definitely one of the strong points. And all the different creatures and settings and things that
Uh,
are in the world, I think are really cool. So
yeah.
yeah.
I usually do, like, see as I read, like, I picture things a lot as I read, but some books are more than others, and this book, I feel like every scene that I read, like, I had a very clear mental image of the entire thing, like, I was watching a movie as I was reading.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, do you have any
All
other
right.
closing thoughts?
That's it. That's all of my thoughts on this one. I guess we can just leave it here unless you have anything.
Yeah, I highly recommend that you pick up the book and go follow Lydia Russell on Twitter and TikTok and Insta and everywhere else that she's online. She's super nice. And yeah, thank you for joining us. We're going to be taking a bit of a break on the book club, and we're going to relaunch in January. And for now, we're going to be focusing on writing leading up to NaNoWriMo because that'll be here before we know it. And yeah, thank you everyone, and catch us on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram. Thank you.